Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Mr Speaker, I'll state right at the beginning that the Labor Party will be supporting this bill to the Select Committee. I would say that it's a pity that the member in whose bill his name is hadn't consulted with his nephew, the list member for the Hutt Valley, in order to make sure that that bill was similarly consistent with the New Zealand Bill of Rights Act, and maybe he could give him some lessons in that area. And it's sort of unusual for Mr Hanare and I, but there's almost nothing I can disagree with in the speech that he said. He's summarised the situation pretty well. His bill will do effectively nothing. What he was doing is enshrining in legislation what's already codified in the vast majority of union rules. I again will do something unusual and take the language of Ruth Richardson and say, what's the mischief in that? There's not a problem with that. Getting it to a select committee. I've got a question whether Parliament's would be better dealing with some other issues. I think there are some bigger issues in industrial relations and other areas. But it's an issue which would be good to get it to a select committee. And I think as far as the member goes, then there'll be a degree of unanimity. I hope there'll be a degree of unanimity in the House around it, because actually all it is doing is reflecting the practice of modern unionism, something that's changed a bit in the time since he and I were more actively involved in the union movement. There is an area, though, which the Labor Party will look to amend the bill in, or see whether the bill is a vehicle for amendment, and that is a reflection, a mirror image for employers to make sure that there are proper processes for employers before they lock workers out. Because that's the thing around the legislation that we have at the moment. While there are, I think, there's some unevenness in the relationship, a lot of unevenness in the employment relationship at the moment. What we have generally in our industrial relations law are rules which apply to employers as well as to employees. And what the proper approach for employers should be is I'm not entirely sure, but I think certainly for companies it will be appropriate for at least the board of directors to make a decision before workers are locked out. Well, it might be good for the Business Roundtable to take a secret ballot on some of their own policies, because it's interesting as you go around the Business Roundtable how different the individual members are from the positions that have been put forward by Mr Kerr. But as I say, it's something we'll be happy to do. And I do want to say to the member that over a number of years there have been some real changes in practice from the time that we were both actively involved in the union movement. And I think that probably in that time there were a significant number of unions who didn't have secret ballots, and people had different methods of enforcement, both employers and employees. They had different methods of dispute resolution, didn't they, Mr Hanare, over that time? And I think it's fair to say that people had different attitudes to transparency at that time, because at that time, when there were incidents within the union movement, they tended to be covered up. And some of the people who had behaved badly, as Mr Hanare did, tended to be protected. And I don't know whether it was because of the union brotherhood that they were protected, or whether it was a special deal, even in those days, under the United Nations or some other arrangements, which meant that Mr Hanare got protection rather than prosecution in the way that anyone else would have, if they behaved in the way that he did at his exit point, as he exited the union movement. He knows exactly what the story is. He is the person who introduced the importance of transparency in union matters here, and I'm sure over the next period of time we will enjoy him telling us the story of the way that he exited the union movement. And I tell you what, it wasn't a matter of ballot fixing. It wasn't a matter of he didn't get caught for his ballot fixing, although I think that union might have had a trouble or two in that area at one stage or other, around the time that he was an official. But that wasn't the reason that he decided to resign from the union movement. It was something which was much more serious than that. And I look forward to transparency. But as I said at the beginning, Mr. Speaker, we are supportive of this bill. It is a bill which will have almost no effect in its current form. It might be a bit of a waste of time. It is likely to get widespread support. But what we hope to do is we hope to improve it so that it will mirror, it will be fair, and it will mirror for employers and make sure that they have processes as well as unions before they use their power to lock workers out.